Lanterns premieres on August 17th. So we'll see how it is. If it's good, maybe we'll do an episode on it. We'll see.
Well, we'll see. We've been doing a lot of straight things on the pod. I think we've got to fag it up a little bit. So I'll be responsible for that.
Geoff, our last episode was on Zara Larsson. We just did an episode about The Devil Wears Prada 2. So care to comment on those?
Justin, points were just made, and I'm digesting them. And I applaud you for always being willing to call me out. Or call me in, rather.
You know, I'm always down to have a healthy discussion with you, Geoff, as we do on the pod every week.
Well, every week I don't know about it being healthy, but we do discuss every week.
We definitely discuss things. I was hacked. It got taken out of context, obviously. Justin.
Oh, now for Now's Cafe. Absolutely beautiful day here in Saskatchewan. Why don't you come on down and get an ice cream cone? Better take a scooter out for a rip. Jeff.
And welcome to Vance. And what the fuck was that?
It is... It's this video. Okay, there's this place in Saskatchewan called Ellis Cafe, and their social media team is like all of their like workers who are teenagers.
They're employees.
They're fucking funny as hell.
Props to them. Shout out to them.
This woman comes flying. What did you say?
I said shout out to them.
Oh, I thought you said props to them, gops to them. And I was like, what is that?
We can make it a thing. Props to them and gops to them.
That's right. This girl comes flying into screen on a scooter, and there's like no punctuation in anything she says. Off out now to Ellis Cafe. It's an absolutely beautiful day here in Saskatchewan. You better come on down and get an ice cream cone. It's great. I love it.
And you do also love an accent, so
I do, and I love it when people like don't ever speak in a normal way.
Always peak.
It's great.
Always
Good
peak.
stuff. Justin, I had a crazy last night.
We are recording this on Memorial Day, so you know,
Happy
Memorial Day,
Justin.
Hope everyone's remembering.
I'm remembering why we're friends on this Memorial Day. Care to guess why?
Is this related to your story, or is this...
No, this is another thought.
There's another bit. Okay.
It's not a bit, it's a thought.
Because of our shared interests and our, you know, friendly banter.
Well, Justin, it was really because we were at a big party and I saw you all alone in the corner and I said, this poor guy, he doesn't know anybody and he has no friends and he smells so bad. So I invited you to come over and hang out with our friend. It's true. This is how we met.
That's simply not true.
It's so true.
What?
That's how we met. You don't remember this?
We did our origin story already on the pod, and we did not.
No, we didn't.
This is a lie.
This is not a lie.
This is a lie.
Justin, I know that you're embarrassed about it, but it's okay. You were a loser. Nobody cared about you in high school. So I reached out a hand. And even though I didn't like you at first, I said, this guy needs some friends.
Because you're so kind and thoughtful.
Yeah, I am.
Mm-hmm.
And never forget it. Remember that on Memorial Day.
So you were saying you had a crazy night last night.
Yeah. I finally, after about 25 years, watched Mulholland Drive.
Damn. Who'd you watch it with?
Well, that's not important.
Oh, okay.
But I did watch it.
I don't know who you watched it with, but I'm saying it's a weird movie to watch with your family, and it's also a weird movie to watch with as like a date movie.
It was not a movie that I watched on a date, and it was not a movie I watched on a family. I watched the movie with my friend Connor, and he's a big David Lynch fan, and he said he's watched Mulholland Drive like 7 to 8 times, and it's his favorite movie.
Well, I love it. I'm a Lynch head, but what'd you think of it?
You're a big Lynch head. Some might call you a Lynch pin head.
Sure.
Is that good? There's something there.
You're just thinking pinhead, I think.
Well, I was thinking about linchpin.
I see what you're doing with that. Okay.
Yeah. You like it?
No.
Okay. Well, I thought it was one of the most bizarre movies I've ever seen. I love a film noir, as we know. I love like in LA, especially when they're based in LA. It's very like Black Dahlia. It's very Perry Mason. I like that. This one was like, I definitely would call it like a neo film noir. And it had like so many of the typical David Lynch kind of things that made it so off kilter and eerie. Firstly, we have to talk about the atmospheric sounds of like distant grumbling and rumbling.
Yeah.
It's so unsettling.
The scene that lives in my head forever is behind the diner.
Oh,
You know,
hate it.
like
Yeah.
insane, just such a peak David Lynch scene, nightmarish, and also just like the anxiety of like, I mean, his whole thing is like the anxiety of what is lying beneath this kind of like pristine outer layer of
Yeah.
society. And that comes through on like Twin Peaks, Mulholland Drive, like all of his stuff.
He loves to look at the underbelly.
Yes, he does.
He wants to take that rock and turn it over and see all the worms underneath.
Hmm.
It was a bizarre movie, and now I understand Chaperone's reference in her song "Naked in Manhattan," which is like that one sex scene in Mulholland Drive.
Yeah.
Holy crap, that lady's boobs are incredible. I'm not even into that so much, but I was like, damn.
You were just admiring from like a engineering standpoint.
Exactly. I said, how are they standing up like that? Crazy, crazy work.
Well, Geoff, I'm glad that you could update me about your David Lynch journey.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to update the listeners that they should be sending in questions for our 100th episode. If you haven't already, send them to bantspod@gmail.com.
Yeah.
Or DM us on Instagram.
Have we gotten anything yet?
Any and all questions. We've received a few questions already, yes, but we would always love more. So definitely send in a few more, and we'll answer them on our 100th episode.
We love to question. That's coming up soon.
Yeah, only a few more episodes left before we hit the big 100. Crazy.
Wow.
All right, Geoff. Well, with that out of the way, why don't we get into some hot topics?
Yeah, let's talk about hot topics.
Hot topics, Geoff. And let's start with the big one because Charli has released another single. This one, SS26, short for Spring Summer 26,
right?
I believe.
Yes, of course. Fashion jargon.
This follows her, I guess, like kind of lead single for whatever this next project is, Rock Music. And this one is also produced by A.G. Cook and Finn Keen. Geoff, what'd you think of this new song?
Well, I was pretty hot on it from the jump. There are a few people who I think were like, I'm not sure about this.
Name them.
Name them? It would be you, Justin. You said, what did you say? I think you said, quote, I am not a fan at first pass.
That is exactly what I said. You know, it has grown on me, but I do stand by some of what I said about the song on first listen.
And why don't you share some of what you said?
Well, yeah, well, let's talk about what the song is, I guess, first, and then we can talk about like how we feel about it. But it's this very kind of like simple, stripped back. I guess it is kind of a ballad, but it is like this kind of mixture of like this very simple garage band style drum loop with like acoustic guitar sounds, basically. And Charli is essentially singing about how like art and pop culture will not save us, but like we're doing it anyways. And on top of that, she has a couple of verses about like cancel culture. You know, like my opening line, I was hacked. It got taken out of context. She references a Notes app apology. All the cancel culture stuff, I think, is just a little bit tired in 2026. Like, how many times do we have to litigate this? But
damn,
I think that the theme of like the apocalypse is happening and I'm doing a stupid fashion show is one that I can relate to doing a pop culture podcast.
Yeah, it's so relevant.
And like the actual like sonic aesthetic sound of the chorus has grown on me and I think it's very catchy.
It's so catchy. It's been in my head all week.
I think I also said to you that it was more Hey There Delilah than Vogue, which I do stand by.
I agree with you. There was no argument for me on that.
Straight to hell, nothing's gonna save us, not music, fashion, or film.
But I do think that it actually kind of works. And I think now is maybe the first time since this new era began that I'm kind of starting to like in my head put together what this new sound and new era will look like for Charli. Because I think it's this very stripped back. And I know that in some ways Brat was like stripped back, but in a kind of rougher around the edges and kind of, again, punkier way. I feel like these songs are a little bit more like chill in some ways, you know?
Yeah, this is almost like alternative rock. And I would say that that SS26 is like an alternative like rock ballad.
Mm-hmm.
It is very chill. We still have the distorted guitars that we had on Rock Music, which I like.
Yeah.
And that distortion is very Charli. Talk about liking the underbelly and things that are a little rough around the edges. Yeah, but I like the song because it is, you know, she's like she's self-aware about like the frivolity of her industry and her career. And, you know, kind of also talking about how you can't really consume art the way it's meant to be put out in our extremely commercialized society. That's kind of what I think that this is about. It's kind of like fashion and art as business.
Right, because she mentions there's a couple of lines that kind of reference this. The first one is that she mentions like maybe her politics will be a good like press point or something like that. And I think she also says something like my ethnicity could be like a good selling point, like a unique selling point or something like that. USP, I think, is what she says, which is jargon that I did not know and had to look up.
Oh, unique selling proposition.
Proposition.
Yes,
that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah, so she references those two things, and I think like Charli has gotten some criticism, not from us, but some criticism about not being like vocally political enough.
But Justin Kamala's brat.
Well, she said Kamala's brat, and that was kind of out of character for her. And then she went on to be like, this is not an endorsement, you know? So I think that like those two lines reference the fact that like, you know, if she wanted to, she could be a lot more openly political or, you know, talk more about her background, her ethnic background. But I think that she feels uncomfortable making those parts of her like actual personality and like her life into like commercial selling points.
Yeah.
And she's kind of parodying that in the song.
Right.
Which I think is, again, those are lines that I like. The stuff that I'm like not as into, again, is like the cancel culture stuff, which I just feel like is like
the Notes app apology.
Yeah, I'm like, how many times have we got to talk about a Notes app apology?
Yeah.
That, and then it feels a little bit like nihilistic at points. Like I've seen there's a lot of works of art about like art in a time of apocalypse, like Station 11 is about this, you know. And that's a very optimistic and wholesome show. SS26 is more like we're all gonna die, but like if if we're gonna die, let's just like do a fashion show. And it's not even like the fashion show is that serious or is like even that fulfilling. It's almost like a depressing prospect that Charli is putting forward in this song.
Yeah. Did you watch the video now, right? Because when we first talked, you had only listened to the song.
I did watch the video, and that did like crystallize a lot of the themes for me because, I mean, why don't you describe it?
It is like, you know, the scenes that you see of like people doing photo shoots and getting ready for a fashion show is basically the premise of this video. And it's Charli doing a lot of strutting on the runway. And it's sort of like looking at it, but almost like you said, through like the lens of parody. Or like highlighting the ridiculousness of it, like with the hair fans of it all and like 20 people doing her makeup and pushing and pulling her skin and stuff.
I think for me, the image that sticks out, like there's all these signifiers of like high fashion, like Charli smoking a cigarette, she's strutting, like all of these like Jimmy Choos and stuff like that are all around the music video. But then when the fashion show starts, I think it's just repeated Charlies, although maybe it's models, I can't remember specifically, but in my mind it's like Charli is walking down in multiple fits. And when she reaches the end of the runway, she falls off into an abyss, right? She like falls into a pit. It's like depicting like suicide or just like oblivion. And again, that goes back to that apocalyptic theme of the song where it's like, what are we all doing here, you know? So while maybe on first pass, it doesn't seem like it's parody. I think adding that image kind of like as the bookend of the music video, it's kind of like undermining what the actual fashion is. And it's interesting that Charli managed to get all of these name brands on board for the music video.
I very much doubt that they even had any idea what the video was going to be about. They basically were like, here, we'll give you this much money if you do product placement. She was like, sure.
There's like poppy product placement.
Yeah.
It reminded me so much of the moment, right? Like when they had all of these like Beats, like product placement, logos everywhere. Like,
oh yeah,
those brands' presence in the music video just accentuates and like emphasizes her point that this is all kind of meaningless and like we've reached like a singularity of like capitalism in pop culture at this moment, you know?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Charli loves the product placement. She's product placement queen.
Yeah.
She's getting her bag, but she does do it in a way like she did in the moment and like she's done in this video where she is sort of like commenting on like how ridiculous it is that she's like a pop star and these brands that ultimately have nothing to do with her life or her are like paying her gobs of money to produce, you know, to promote them. And she's doing it in a way with like a wink to the audience, you know, like how stupid is this?
Which is pretty interesting.
It is.
And sonically, I can imagine myself listening to this like on a Sunday morning or like, you know, hungover morning after a night out or something like that. You know, it's a melancholy song.
Yes, definitely melancholy. Very Mulholland Drive, one might say.
One could say that.
But should one? Okay, wait, but I have a question for you. What's your favorite product placement of all time, do you think?
My favorite product placement?
Like, is there a time when you were watching something and
that would actually hit right now.
No, well, okay, I guess you could do it that way. Like, sincerely, like, ooh, yum, I would love a Diet Coke right now or something. Or like, I love the new Pepsi Zero. Or like a time where it was like so obvious and like funny. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I tend to like as a rule, not like product placement.
Right.
So like I try to block them out of my mind.
Okay.
Let me think on that a little bit more. Do you have one off the top of your head?
Why, absolutely I do, Justin. It's gonna have to be for me, Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle. So
I mean, that's
brilliant
iconic,
and dumb. So dumb. Like, it's in the movie title. It's all about going to get the fast food chain sliders.
You know what's crazy is that that's the only reason I know about White Castle. I think it's like
really
they don't have many of them in New England.
Girl, that is so true. Actually, now I'm thinking about it. Well, you know, my dad's from New York, and went to Jersey a lot too. And Jersey is like White Castle haven. The kingdom of New Jersey's like political center is the White Castle. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's everywhere. I was just there this weekend. You didn't even ask me how my weekend was, Justin. We didn't even start this on a nice note.
We talked about your weekend. Okay,
you didn't even ask me.
You didn't ask me either. So,
well, I do want to know what you did this weekend for Memorial Day, the long weekend.
I had a chill weekend. You know, I was mostly just vibing. I was watching some stuff. You know, watched Arrival. We're talking about that later.
Yeah.
But about your product placement question.
Yeah.
I think that this is like definitely recency bias, but I think that the product placement that sticks out to me is the Burger King product placement in Beef Season 1, which is similar to the Charli stuff in that it's very clearly like criticizing Burger King, but they mention multiple times like the Burger King classic chicken sandwich, which I found very funny.
That is funny.
And I also think of, it's not really quite product placement, but I also think of the Ed Sheeran cameo in Game of Thrones. What was going on with that?
I don't know. I still wonder to this day why they chose to do that and have him sing. And it was a lot.
That was crazy. I mean, we were really
a lot.
We were in the pits of Game of Thrones content around that time. That was not the best.
Speaking of which, Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon's coming out in about a month from today, I think.
That's right.
Are you excited about it? Are you looking forward to it? Have you seen a trailer? Because I have not yet.
I have seen trailers.
Oh, multiple?
Well, there have been multiple. There was a teaser that came out, and then there was like a full-length trailer that came out.
Justin, does it look good?
I mean, as I've been saying since we covered season 2, I feel like there is a lot that is about to happen. It's going to be like big battle after big battle, a lot of climax happening in this third season. So my hopes are high. I think it has the potential to be really good.
Okay.
It comes down to the execution.
It's always about the execution. Are you worried about it? Because I am.
Well, I'm currently high on the Game of Thrones franchise right now.
You're going to get fired from your job. What are you talking about?
I am feeling good about the Game of Thrones franchise as it stands right now because of A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I mean, that was an incredible show. And I feel like a lot of the issues with House of the Dragon were logistical, had to do with the writer's strike that was happening during the production of season 2. And, you know, there's been like very public beef between George R.R. Martin and Ryan Condal, who is the showrunner of House of the Dragon. But
I have to tell you, I didn't know about this beef.
We talked about it on the pod. So we have discussed.
Okay.
Yeah. But most of those logistical issues have now evaporated, and we're now like into the real meat of the source material, Fire and Blood. So I have high hopes. I am more optimistic than not at this point.
I'm glad to hear this. You're feeling good about it. You're not feeling nihilistic about the future of Game of Thrones franchise.
Yeah, if we can make it to June, you know, fingers crossed, I think it could be good.
Please, Father, please.
Well, Geoff, let's go back to music. Let's pivot back to music.
Oh, okay. Let's do that.
We're going to talk about the new Olivia Rodrigo single as well. This is called The Cure.
Yes, we are, Justin. I was listening to it earlier this morning when I was getting ready.
This is the second single off of Olivia Rodrigo's new album that's coming out very soon. We're going to do an episode about it. Geoff, what do you think about this 5-minute long odyssey of a song?
Why are you saying it like that?
It's long. I mean, it's like unconventional for like a pop star to release a song that's this long. Rock music from Charli was less than 2 minutes long.
Well, okay, yes. Charli loves to do short songs. It's kind of her thing. But she also is like one of those artists who's like, people want short form content. I'm giving it to them.
I'm not even talking about Charli specifically. Like if you look at like singles that are released.
No, I know. I agree with you.
Very unconventional.
Most of them
for
are
5
around
minutes.
like 3 minutes.
Right.
Well, I like this. This really fits in with the melancholy theme of today's podcast, to be honest. It's just like centered around this like one like guitar melody that is extremely catchy. You know, we're talking quite a bit about investing in someone or trusting in someone who really didn't deserve it or who let you down. Misplaced faith, one might say.
That's an interesting read on this. I understand where you're coming from, but I would frame it slightly differently.
Tell me.
I think that this song is about thinking that finding somebody who is good to you and loves you and that you love will fix the problems that you have. And this is Olivia saying, like, I was expecting this relationship that I got into to kind of help me get over my own stuff, and it's not. And I still need to be able to fix my own stuff. So it's not so much.
Would you not say that that's misplaced faith, that this remedy is sitting right before you?
Well, that's exactly the point that I agree with, but I would disagree with the fact that that person let you down.
Well, I think in someone's mind, they could have let them down. But really, I think a more self-aware person realizes, as Olivia does in the song.
Well, that's exactly right. She does realize that the person is not letting her down.
Not a relationship entered in good faith to begin with.
Well, on her part, seemingly, that's, I guess, the difference, right? I think that she's being more self-critical than she is being critical of her partner, right? I think that she's talking about the neuroses that she has about her new partner. I think she says, see, there's a line early in the song, or maybe in the second verse, where she says, like, I'm tallying up all the girls that this guy's fucked before just because I'm, insecure, whatever the issue she may have is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm on the same page as you. I really like this song. I think it's cool that, Olivia put out a 5-minute long song. I think that aesthetically, this sounds so much like Everlong by Foo Fighters. And I think that's a plus,
90s alt rock is back, baby.
It crescendos into this like string heavy, again, like the drum pattern is almost exactly the same as Everlong at the end, this climax that is like really wonderful. And, it would go off live. I always love to say that, but like it's a great climax. It's a great like culmination of energy.
Yeah.
I just think it's cool that she's like being a little adventurous with her single choices. I think she said that this song is like the thesis statement of the album, which to me is a great sign.
That's big excitement. That's what I call it.
I'm very excited. Very excited. I also think we talk a lot on the pod about how difficult it is sometimes to make an album or make creative works when you're in a happy relationship. And, the name of Olivia's upcoming album, You Look Pretty Sad for a Girl So in Love, I think is the name of it. It is a great example of how you can make that interesting, right? This is a great example of a song where she's in a relationship where her partner is being good to her, and yet there's still a lot to break down there, right? And I think that, this is maybe something we'll get into when we start talking about Beef season 2, which is all about relationships, but like I think that there is kind of like this third rail quality to discussing relationships in like an open and honest way, in a way that hasn't been like romanticized. So I think it's cool. I'm excited for the album.
I'm very excited for the album. Well, let's talk about the Survivor 50 finale.
Yes, Geoff, I think this is like a real breakout moment for Survivor. Obviously, it's been around for a million years. It's the most popular like reality show in America. But I think it has like really broken through into people that have not watched it before. And maybe this is anecdotal because I can speak for myself. This is the first season that I have been like really invested in of Survivor ever. But I feel like I've heard a lot of people talking about it that normally would not be talking about Survivor.
Right.
So I thought it'd be worth it to kind of talk about our thoughts. There was a 3-hour-long live finale that aired from Survivor last week. Why don't you get your thoughts on it?
Well, I thought it was too long. We don't need to be doing 3 hours.
Even the normal, quote unquote, normal Survivor episodes that were 2 hours long. I'm like, is this always how it is? Is it always 2 hours?
It never used to be. Back in the day, it was only an hour long. It was 8 o'clock to 9.
Wild.
Yeah. And then they started doing these longer episodes, which I at first didn't like the longer episodes, but now I do because you are able to fit a lot more context into the dynamics of what's happening on the tribe, because ultimately Survivor is just a political game.
Right.
There are physical challenges for sure, but at the end of the day, those don't matter quite as much as the politics do.
Or at least they're not as interesting. I think that's something that I, as a Survivor newbie, that I kind of had to figure out. It was like, why are we spending so much time on these physical challenges, and like what does this have to do with anything? It's a really interesting game because for those who don't know, the final winner is selected from a jury of the contestants that were previously voted off the island.
Right.
And there's no like objective measure for why somebody may win or may not win. It's completely subjective and dependent on kind of like the storylines that the final 3 contestants kind of like sell themselves on.
Yes.
And then be like the personal opinions basically of the jury.
Yeah, it's all personal. There is no objective measurement. There is no rubric for like who was the most this or that and why should they deserve to win. That is part of what drives me crazy about Survivor, because especially once you get to the merge and then people who are voted off the game are now entering the jury, like you have to do so much jury management before the merge happens. And when they do, the merge changes every season.
Yeah, so you can't predict it. Yeah.
Yeah, and it can really drastically change the game. Like this year, there's a very dark, I think, undercurrent of like MAGA people that were on Survivor, and they really stuck together. And I did not like it at all. Chrissy, Coach, Jonathan. I felt like there was like a bit of a
Stephanie
MAGA.
Also?
Yeah, it's oh god, I don't like her. I do not like Stephanie at all.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and this is a good place to mention that we are going to spoil the finale. So it's aired a while ago now, but in case you want to watch it, skip forward a few times. But yeah, the final 3 were Joe, Jonathan, and Aubrey. And I was basically at this point, but I think by the final like 4 or 5, I was kind of like, it's going to be Aubrey. And I just don't want anybody else to win. Like, basically after Sari got voted off, right? And before Sari got voted off, I was rooting for her and rooting for Tiff as well.
Yep.
You know, once Sari was out, I was like, okay, it's 100% going to be Aubrey, because everybody else that's a part of the contestant pool still is going to vote Tiff off unless she wins, you know, like an immunity idol again.
Oh my god, she was so close to winning immunity over Jonathan. Drove me crazy.
Yeah, bummer.
Jonathan drives me fucking nuts. I can't stand the way he says, Mr. Geoff. Mr. Geoff. Like, why do you have to put like an article like that in front of people? It's like inauthentic, folksy, salt of the earth kind of pandering.
Do you know what I mean? From Oklahoma or Alabama or something?
I think he is from like Florida, Bama. But like, I don't give a fuck. That's stupid. Mr. This, Mr. Like, what if I called you Mr. Justin? Wouldn't that be fucking weird?
It's very superhero, very comic book vibes, you know, like Mr. Fantastic. Dr. Octopus.
Yeah, but like, is Fantastic his first or last name?
I think it's more of just a moniker.
I just don't like him. So I hate everything he does.
Also, for some reason, you're giving him a little bit of a Russian accent. I don't know what's going on there.
No, he's always just like, Mr. Geoff. I don't know.
You're doing it's a little Russian sounding.
Is it?
Yes.
This coming from you, Justin, do your best Russian accent.
I'm not going to do any accents
Come on
the pod. You know that I'm so bad. That's the number one thing I'm the worst at, I think. But yeah, I thought that like the arguments that Joe and Jonathan and Aubrey were making to the jury were so interesting, because it was so clear that nobody on the jury was voting for Joe.
Right.
And I almost felt bad for him, because I'm kind of like, even if he was kind of passive in the game, isn't the fact that he made it this far like testament enough that he's like, there's something about his play that got him this far? Do you know what I mean?
I kind of do. I have to say, I've watched Survivor. I would say I've probably watched like 30 seasons of Survivor. I've not watched all 50. There was like a large chunk like in the middle that I stopped watching. But there's always in the final 3, from my experience, like one person who's like everyone knows is like, okay, they're getting 1 to 0 votes.
Yeah.
And it always comes down to like ultimately being 2 people who have like risen to the top and are really in dead heat with each other. Actually, that's not even true. I shouldn't say dead heat. I should say out of the 3, it's always the 2. Do you know?
Yeah, I know what you're saying. And I was kind of shocked that it was so close between Jonathan and Aubrey. I was like, Aubrey's got to win this in a landslide. And then when we heard the jury kind of like really grilling Aubrey during like the final tribal council, I was just like, damn, Jonathan, I guess, really has a shot. And the vote was kind of close, which I was really surprised by, because to me, Aubrey had a much more entertaining game.
I think that he got like a third of the vote.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he got a third of the vote, and the rest of the people voted Audrey. Audrey was just like, she's just a great player, and she's played Survivor. That was her 4th time, and her 2nd time being in the final 3.
Mm-hmm.
And she finally won, and she won a car. Let's talk about the live aspect of the show, because the finale was like, they had like 2 episodes that were aired, or that were airing, and then it kept cutting to like a live feed and a live celebration where the actual winner was going to be announced.
Mm-hmm. This was in LA, the live part. Yeah.
Yes. So in Survivor, they have done like live finales, and then they have done the finales where it's just like a final episode, and then the cameras keep rolling for like an hour after the decision's made at Tribal Council, and they do like basically a cast reunion, sort of Housewives style, where they like talk about conflict and people either solve conflict or continue beefing, and it's like very entertaining usually because they make it really about like, okay, so we saw this. What did the cameras not show? Or like what happened behind the scenes that like even the cameras like never picked up on or was never discussed openly.
Right.
And so it's great. It's very much like it reminds me of Real Housewives of Atlanta. Like that was like the first Housewives to do a reunion show that was like really about getting into the nitty-gritty of the dynamics and like unpacking issues and confrontations.
Mm-hmm.
This finale was not like that at all. There was so little to do with the people who like made it to the end in the current cast, and it was really about like honoring like a handful of players who have been like in the Survivor universe for a long time, and was a lot to do with like product placement.
Yeah, for example, Corona beer.
Justin, I lost it when you said you were losing your mind saying a Corona beer. Grab a Corona beer.
That's how normal humans say this, right? Come grab a Corona beer, friends.
I want something basic, like a Corona beer. It is nuts that they said that.
What is nuts is that was not even the most nuts thing that happened during the live segment, because Geoff completely, the other Geoff, of course, completely flibbed I guess it was like a transition between, basically there was a cliffhanger in the episode just before fire between Jonathan and Riz God.
Yeah, they had a final showdown.
To decide who was the last person to leave kind of the tribe and to enter the jury. And there was a cliffhanger at the end that implied that after the commercial break, we'd come back and we'd see fire. And then Geoff basically said, all right, Riz, welcome. How you doing? Why don't you take your seat as the final member of the jury? And then everybody who was in the jury were like, what are you talking about? They haven't shown fire. Riz is like, LOL, you're joking. Like he was trying to play it off a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was so decisively fucked up that like there was no way to kind of reverse it or like play it off like it was a mistake.
Live TV, that's show business, folks.
Literally, that's almost exactly what Geoff said. He was like, I love doing live TV. And like after the commercial break, they kind of just had to be like, yep, we accidentally told you who was going to win the fire. So enjoy. Yeah. It was very weird.
Yeah, it was so odd.
It's just crazy how many people had to fuck up their jobs for that to happen, though.
Right.
Because it's not just that Geoff said something that he wasn't supposed to say. Like, even if Geoff had not said, join the final member of the jury, when Riz came out, it was just him that came out, not Jonathan. And there was one empty stool left next to the rest of the jury. Even if he was just like, hey, Riz, let's have an interview, we would have all assumed that Riz was going home. So, like, I don't even know how it was possible that they let this level of fuck up get to air. It was a scheduling thing, too, which you think would be planned like well ahead.
Well, Justin, think of who's in charge of CBS now. Les incompetents.
Yeah, it's very, very true.
So that's tough for them. Yeah, I don't know. I didn't like it. I also have to say, I hated all the celebrity endorsement of Survivor this season.
Oh.
Like, they kept being like, the Billie Eilish Boomerang Idol. They said it approximately 17 times. I'm like, I guess this was like contractually agreed to that they would mention this celebrity's name a certain number of times in the episode, because the way that they kept being like the Mr. Beast 50-50 coin flip or whatever the fuck.
Yeah. Ugh.
It was so bad. I hated it so much.
The Mr. Beast stuff especially was like really tough for me. And also, who was the country music guy that came on?
I can't remember.
I don't remember his name.
Was it Jason Aldean? Zach Brown. Zach Brown came on, and he had, at that point in the show, Tiff was a cast member who like went until like the second to last episode. Up until that point, she had one interview. Zach Brown had 4 interviews in that one episode where he appeared for approximately 15 minutes.
It was
how crazy,
heinous, and it was also just like everybody was like, "Oh my god, Zach Brown! Wow!" And then they had like a 40-minute long set. Like in this 2-hour episode, they had, I swear to God, it was like half an hour to 40 minutes long of just like him performing at like a picnic and like him fishing with the some of the Survivor people and being like, "It's so cool for me to be hanging out with the Survivor kids," and I'm like, I don't care about this at all. Like, I'm not watching, Survivor so that I can see an interview with Zach Brown. That's not even about his music, let alone the fact that I'm not a big country music guy or whatever. But it was bizarre.
It was so weird. I just didn't like it, and I also didn't like at the end of during the like live show, they were giving away. They were like, "Oh my god, Suri and Ozzy, two of our most iconic Survivor castmates," which they are.
Yeah.
But they were like, "Oh, we've got to give you a big prize or show our appreciation for all the work that you've done in Survivor." And then they gave Suri like an ugly fucking trophy.
Well, that's great. That's like an incredible gift compared to what they gave Ozzy, which was literally just a t-shirt. That was t-shirt. Nuts.
That was also like roasting him, telling him like, "Oh, you should have played the Idol, Ozzy." Ha ha. It was crazy.
Very strange.
Ozzy even literally said, "I get a t-shirt."
I know.
And I was like, dude, you're so valid for that response. Because, like, by the way, do you know how much money Geoff Probst makes in a year hosting Survivor twice a year?
No, I don't know.
Justin, it's absolutely unconscionable.
We talking like multi-million dollars per year?
$7 to $8 million.
Damn.
Was reported by People magazine. Can you imagine that? And then they're giving the survivors like $1 million.
$2 million thanks to Mr. Beast, Geoff.
Justin, this is craziness. The fact that the show started in like 2000, I think, or maybe 2001, and they have not increased the prize from $1 million. $1 million in 2000 or 2001 has a lot more buying power than $1 million today in 2026.
For sure.
It's insanity that they haven't kept it up with inflation. But it's just like all other jobs. It's just like all other jobs, Justin.
Wages are not matching the rate of inflation, that's for sure.
It's nuts. We got to do better. CBS needs to do better. Suri and Ozzy both should have gotten like checks for $500,000 each. They played for so long. Neither of them have ever won. They have brought so many eyeballs to CBS and Survivor. Like, they deserve to cash in on the goods and be rewarded.
Congrats to Aubrey for winning. But let's move on, Geoff. Let's move on to a different television show. This is a show, Lanterns. Have you heard of this?
I've heard nothing about Lanterns.
Okay, well, this is a TV show set in the new DC universe. This is the same world as like the new Superman film that we watched and we both generally liked. Now, I can hear you asking, well, why are we talking about this? And I'll tell you why. So this is starring Kyle Chandler, who, of course, is, you know, the icon from Friday Night Lights and a lot of other shows.
It's good to be the coach's wife.
I think he was my dream casting for The White Lotus, if you remember when we were asking that question.
He'd be great.
And it also stars Aaron Pierre, who is kind of a new up-and-comer, but he starred in Rebel Ridge.
Of course.
And they're starring as Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart, who are Green Lanterns in the DC universe. So these are like superheroes.
And host of The Daily Show.
Not the host of The Daily Show. Easily confused. But they have, green rings that allow them the power to like manifest these green weapons or shields or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And the showrunner is Chris Mundy, who is kind of, again, a newcomer, but he's produced Ozark and True Detective Night Country. So he has been in the TV business for a minute. But the reason that I'm interested in this is that in addition to Mundy, Damon Lindelof is a creator of this show, and he's set to write multiple episodes.
We love Lindelof.
He's done Lost, Watchmen, The Leftovers, of course. We've talked a lot about his work here on the pod. And this is an adaptation, again, of the Green Lantern comics, and is said in promotional materials that this is taking inspiration from series like True Detective and Slow Horses. So it's more of like a prestige, grounded version of these characters, which is interesting because Green Lantern I wouldn't describe as one of the more grounded superheroes. Right. It's a little bit of a weird framing.
Fantastic.
Right. I mean, the Ryan Reynolds Green Lantern film was like notoriously terrible and very like space opera-y, Yeah. So it's interesting to see that this is kind of being marketed as like a more grounded show. But I think if anybody can kind of like pull those two tones together, it's Lindelof. And we saw that a little bit with Watchmen, as we talked about during our Watchmen episode. Not sure if you had a chance to watch the trailer yet.
I just did.
Any thoughts?
Laura Linney. Laura Linney.
She's in it as well, yes.
Those are my thoughts. Laura Linney. I'm set. I'm going to watch it. She picks good projects. I've never seen something Laura Linney's been in and I'm like, well, that was a fucking turd, Yeah,
it's true. I mean, she has good taste. I think that Kyle Chandler generally is in good stuff, although he's been in a couple of duds for sure. Aaron Pierre is a new up-and-comer, and he's been great in most of what he's been in before.
Have you seen him in something other than Rebel Ridge?
That's the only thing I've seen him in, but he was really good in that film. I think the other big thing that he's been in was he was in The Underground Railroad, which was the Barry Jenkins directed Amazon
Oh,
Prime
yeah.
TV show.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
I did not watch it. I did see the ads for it, though.
Heard lots of good things about it.
They love to target that shit to black folks. There's a black household, you're getting that commercial.
But Prime hates to, advertise their series. So I feel like that was kind of an underwatched show for sure.
It's really actually kind of crazy how bad Amazon Prime is at marketing. It's like, that's everything that you guys do, and you don't market any of your television. Yeah. It's sort of like, what's the point?
They got a lot of stuff going on. I don't think that Prime is the video side is like a big moneymaker for them. I think it's kind of just like Jeff Bezos likes Lord of the Rings,
Yeah, but it could be. Well, if Jeff Bezos really liked Lord of the Rings, he would give up the ghost, because Rings of Power, not good. Not good at all.
We haven't discussed on the pod, but I haven't heard good things.
Justin, it's boo-boo.
Damn. Tough to hear.
I do want to say, though, I do have thoughts actually other than Laura Linney.
Okay.
I do think that the show looks like it's high quality. It definitely has a prestige aura about it. And I always think that the Green Lantern is like my favorite of the DC superheroes, because it is just like a very interesting kind of nebulous power that they possess. And it also doesn't really come from them. It's just like how they choose to use the power and manifest it, which I think is interesting.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think it seems like, based on the trailer, that's one of the facets that they're trying to get at. And I think that's one of the things that kind of links this new show Lanterns with like Watchmen, is like the idea of power and who gets to have it, right? Yeah. I mean, there's subtext there, because obviously Kyle Chandler is white, Aaron Pierre is black. They're playing white and black characters from the comics. And it seems like, Hal Jordan is passing on, or is at least training Jon Stewart in how to use this ring, how to wield this power, right? There's a lot of talk about fear, which you cannot wield power with fear. And this is, parallels with kind of the villain team in the Green Lantern comics, which are the Yellow Lanterns, which are like these villainous team that have similar powers, but they're powered by fear instead of by sheer willpower, which is what the Green Lanterns are powered by.
Right.
So I can see a lot of overlapping themes between this and Watchmen. Watchmen also had to do with like, how do you responsibly wield power?
Right. As discussed on the pod.
As we discussed at length on the pod.
I do have to tell you the one thing that I don't like about this trailer. Woody Harrelson, that terrible little page boy wig.
That's not Woody Harrelson. That's Nathan Fillion. But he was also in Superman, if you recall.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Okay, wait. That was not Woody Harrelson? Why do they look the same?
That is Nathan Fillion.
They look the same in my mind. Wait, that was the guy from Castle, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, why is he looking like Woody Harrelson as he ages? He used to be kind of hot.
I think this is a question you need to dig deep into yourself to answer, Geoff.
Damn, that's tough. Well, that little page boy wig is just atrocious.
I mean, I think it's intentionally bad. Like, remember he was kind of the comic relief asshole in Superman?
I do.
It is interesting that they're trying to make him work in this much more seemingly grounded, more serious television show.
What I was going to say. Yeah. I just think that it doesn't really fit. Have you seen anything about the Supergirl movie?
I've seen the trailers, but I have heard almost nothing in terms of like positive buzz about the film. So yeah, we'll see.
I think it looks really bad.
It could be good. It could be bad. We're not planning on covering it.
And that's tough. And I want to support women, but that is not the project for me.
But you will support Laura Linney in the television show Lanterns.
Well, of course. Laura Linney deserves all the awards. She's a great theater. I think she has a Tony.
Wouldn't surprise me.
I think she just needs a Grammy, and she'll be an EGOT, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. Yes, she's only missing a Grammy.
Okay. Laura Linney, let's get in their booth, Let's start recording something.
You know what? She should have won a Grammy for... It's not eligible because it was fully television, but she used to narrate the opening to Masterpiece Classic on PBS.
Is that music?
No.
Okay, so...
That's why it's ineligible.
Nothing at all to do with...
But all she did was record it. She'd be like, "Hi, I'm Laura Linney, and you're watching Masterpiece Classic." Actually, she said, "I'm Laura Linney, and this is Masterpiece Classic."
I'm glad you made that correction. That was very important.
And then it would be the Downton Abbey theme would start after that.
We would have gotten a lot of hate mail if you had gotten that wrong, for sure.
You're absolutely right, because Laura Linney is a celebrated American institution of stage, film, theater.
Lanterns premieres on August 17th, so we'll see how it is. If it's good, maybe we'll do an episode on it. We'll see.
Well, we'll see. We've been doing a lot of straight things on the pod. I think we've got to fag it up a little bit, so I'll be responsible for that.
Geoff, our last episode was on Zara Larson. We just did an episode about The Devil Wears Prada 2, so care to comment on those?
Justin, points were just made, and I'm digesting them. And I applaud you for always being willing to call me out. Or call me in, rather.
You know, I'm always down to have a healthy discussion with you, Geoff, as we do on the pod every week.
Well, every week I don't know about it being healthy, but we do discuss every week.
We definitely discuss things. And Geoff, let's discuss the Cannes Film Festival. You know that our favorite way to cover these film festivals is to rank the films by length of standing ovation.
That's right.
There is a culture of insanely long standing ovations for these films. And I got to say, it does not always associate with quality. For example, the Horizon film got like a 20-minute standing ovation.
Crazy cuckoo bananas.
Did not go very well for Kevin Costner. Financially, critically,
Miss Costner.
Personally, in any way, really. So it's interesting to talk about these films that got really long standing ovations and how that correlates to like quality and whether they won any awards at the festival. I will say that some of our favorite films that we've already covered last week, Club Kid and Camp Miasma, are not even on this list. They were not in the top 5, which is crazy. So let's go through the top 5 longest standing ovations of Cannes. So there are 2 films that are tied for 4th place.
Okay.
First, Minotaur. This received a 9-minute standing ovation. Directed by Russian filmmaker Andrei Zvyagintsev. Sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I'm sure I did.
Zvyagintsev.
There you go. That sounds right. You're the accent guy. He's been living in France since 2022 due to some statements against the current Russian president, Vladimir Putin.
Surprised he hasn't been assassinated.
This film won the Grand Prix, which is the second prize at Cannes. The logline here is set against the backdrop of a provincial Russian small town in 2022. It follows business executive Gleb, crazy name, who is on the verge of laying off his employees when he discovers his wife is having an affair.
Damn.
Backdrop here is the Russo-Ukrainian war. And while accepting the Grand Prix, the director said, "The only person who can stop this carnage is the president of the Russian Federation. Put an end to this slaughter. The whole world is waiting for it."
How about that?
Which we do love.
Congratulations. What did I say it was? Zaginstev?
That sounds right.
Zaginstev.
Props to him. And it's good to see people that have the privilege and the, means to get out of the country, being willing to put their neck out in high profile places like this. Cool thing that he spoke up in that way.
I agree. And he's not wrong. And I want to go back to the pronunciation of that word that you used.
Which word?
Provincial.
Like province? I always thought it was, did I say provincial?
It might be one of those words where it's like, it can be pronounced multiple ways, but I've always heard provincial.
Oh, I said provincial because I always thought it was rooted with province.
I think it is. I'm just curious.
Listeners, write in, let us know who's right.
Please do. Put it in the mailbag.
Provincial, provincial. Okay. The second film that's tied for 4th place.
For 9 minutes standing ovation.
Is All of a Sudden. This is a Japanese film from Ryusuke Hamaguchi, who, he's probably best known for Drive My Car, which had a really big American award show push in 2021.
I remember that.
The logline for this film: the director of a nursing home in the Parisian suburbs attempts to introduce a humane care technique known as humanitude, capital H, in spite of resistance. I can't tell if you're laughing at my pronunciation of a word or if you're laughing at the logline. Parisian?
That's Parisian for sure.
Okay, Parisian.
I will admit, I really don't know if both pronunciations of provincial and provincial are acceptable, but I know for sure that's fucking Parisian, bitch.
Well, a Parisian director attempts to introduce a humane care technique known as humanitude in spite of resistance. Her life is changed when she meets a terminally ill Japanese playwright named Mari Morisaki.
Now that sounds interesting.
The 2 stars of this film, Virginie Efira, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong, she's a French actress, and Tao Okamoto shared the prize for Best Actress at Cannes. So this won the Best Actress award.
So they tied for that.
Yes. And I'm not sure how they do awards at Cannes. I don't know if it's a vote or if it's kind of just like a jury decision. So I'm not sure if this is like a legitimate tie or if this is just like both of these actors.
They both deserve it.
Exactly.
It's their year.
So these are both so far films that were pretty critically acclaimed out of Cannes.
I have to say, of those 2, All of a Sudden sounds like something I'd be interested in watching.
What has not gotten rave reviews, Geoff, is the number 3 on this list, which is Her Private Hell. This got a 9.5-minute standing ovation at Cannes. And this is directed by Nicholas Winding Refn, who is a Danish filmmaker. He is probably best known for the film Drive, which starred Ryan Gosling. If you remember that movie.
God, it was so bad.
Canon Film Bro movie. I like that movie, but you know.
I know you do. That's where you got your inspiration for your bleached hair.
Simply not true.
Don't deny it.
This film stars Sophie Thatcher, who was in Yellow Jackets and Companion, which is a movie that I talked about on the pod. Charles Melton, who is, of course, got a start in Riverdale and is now in season 2 of Beef.
Also star of My Sexual Dreams.
And Havana Rose Liu, who's like a relative newcomer, but she was a star in Bottoms.
Oh, I remember her.
And has been in a few other kind of indie films as well.
She was like the love interest, right?
She was a cheerleader. That's right.
Yes.
That's right. The logline here is, when a mysterious mist engulfs a futuristic metropolis, unleashing a deadly and elusive entity, a troubled young woman searches for her father. Her quest collides with an American GI on a harrowing odyssey to rescue his daughter from hell.
That sounds really bad.
And this movie has been critically panned. Nicholas Winding Refn, the peak of his creative output has been Drive. He's put out a couple of other films, and this is actually his first film in a while since, I think, The Neon Demon, which was like an Elle Fanning starring film. I think he's known for like very flashy visuals without much else going on.
Yeah.
So he has like a legion of like really dedicated fans, but I think that most of the mainstream critics and also just mainstream audiences are just not vibing with his stuff. So interesting that it received such a long standing ovation. Not sure why.
I'm interested in that. Well, interested in discovering why it received like such a big standing ovation, is what I should be saying.
I mean, it could just be like European taste. Like they're okay with more just like aesthetically pleasing stuff as opposed to like thematically rich stuff. It could also just be, you know, these standing ovations are like very engineered. And, you know, you have your film's team kind of just like clapping as hard as they can, trying to keep it going forever. Yeah. You know what I mean? So
yeah,
it's also partially political and like just a physical challenge, you know, to get this entire crowd to keep clapping for that long.
A physical challenge called Geoff Probst.
Literally.
Wait, you know what? I just realized that Ryan Gosling's bleached hair was not from Drive. It was from A Place Beyond the Pines, where he met his now wife, Eva Mendes.
I feel like he's had bleached hair in a couple of different films. He must have, right?
Okay. Yeah, well, definitely for Barbie.
Yeah, which came out after I did my hair.
Yeah. I think you should bleach your hair again.
Uh-oh.
Surprise Brandy with it.
Brandy's going to end your friendship.
Damn.
Okay, let's get to number 2 on our list here.
Okay.
The number 2 longest standing ovation was from...
I can't wait to hear you pronounce this one.
Okay, I know how to pronounce this.
No, I'm just kidding.
Fjord is the name of the film that had a 10-minute standing ovation.
Justin, it's actually Fjord.
It's not
Fjord.
It's Fjord. You sure about that?
I'm sure about that.
This is from Romanian director Christian Mungiu. I'm sure I'm pronouncing that wrong again. Mm-hmm. Blanket apologies for everybody whose name I'm fucking up this episode.
And the listeners.
This is starring Renata Reinsve, who has recently been in Sentimental Value, and she's about to be in the A24 horror film Backrooms.
Ooh, Backroom looks scary, Justin.
And it also stars Sebastian Stan, who, of course, is Bucky in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, and recently got a lot of awards buzz for A Different Man and The Apprentice, where he played.
By the way, did you watch The Apprentice?
Have not seen.
Very good. I was shocked at how good it was.
I heard it's really good, and then obviously had like a really rocky road to release in the US for obvious reasons. Geoff, this film Fjord won the Palme d'Or. So this is the big winner of Cannes. So watch out for it during award season. The logline here is that the Georgiou family have moved to the mother's birthplace, a remote Norwegian village, and befriend the neighboring Hallberg family. When the Georgious are suspected of disturbing behavior regarding their children, their lives are thrown into chaos as they become the center of scrutiny. It seems like an interesting one. Sebastian Stan is bald in this one. Oh. He shaved his head for this film.
Okay.
Almost unrecognizable. He is going real like middle-aged dad vibes for this film.
Wow. He look old.
He's not a, spring chicken anymore. He's got to be into his 40s, right?
Oh, I don't think I knew that, actually, but that makes sense. Well, this is fascinating.
It's definitely one to watch in award season this coming year, because I think that, the Palme d'Or has especially recently been a good signifier for Oscar buzz.
Yeah.
And Renata Reinsve is like an Oscars favorite at this point. Okay, and then the longest standing ovation at Cannes this year. was a film called La Bola Negra, or The Black Ball in English.
Careful.
And it was directed by Spanish filmmakers Javier Calvo and Javier Ambrosi. And the logline here is set across 3 timelines: Republican Spain in 1932, the Spanish Civil War in 1937, and contemporary Spain in 2017. The film follows a constellation of interconnected lives centered on 3 young men whose emotional and political echoes gradually reveal themselves.
I don't like a time jump. I'm not interested.
This film won Best Director. And Geoff, Cannes heard you. They were like, we got to make this podcast more gay. And they said, longest standing ovation goes to this film. So you hate it.
These are gays?
I believe, yes, I do. And I do believe they're gays. There are gays in this film. Yeah.
Well.
That change your level of interest at all?
Nah, maybe. I don't know, though. This sounds like it could be like a less good version of The Hours. Or like The Hours, but cast gay men and make it Spanish.
Interesting. Well, it won the Best Director prize, so it's buzzy. Although this was like a late premiere. So this one
premiere?
Yeah, it was late in the festival that this one premiered. So maybe people were just saving some of their applause for a big one.
They were like, this is the one. Spend it all, folks.
Yep.
Big bet, like the Survivor auction.
Okay, well, Geoff, with Cannes out of the way.
Yeah.
Why don't we take a quick break and we'll come back to talk about a older film. This film is Arrival, the Denis Villeneuve classic. So we'll be right back.
Be right back.
And we're back.
We're so back. And we're so ready to discuss a very interesting film.
That's right, Geoff. This film is Arrival. This is the 2016 sci-fi film directed by Denis Villeneuve. Geoff, this has come up on the pod multiple times because
so many times.
We love Villeneuve here on the pod. We're Dune heads. We love the Dune films. And I think it was during the Watchmen episode where I discussed that there were some overlapping themes between the Watchmen limited series and this film Arrival. Mm-hmm. So, and you had never seen it. So I thought this was a great option for a rewind segment where we go back and revisit an older film or other piece of media. Arrival is based on a 1998 novella called Story of Your Life by Ted Chiang and Eric Hesserer. Not sure if that's how you pronounce his name, but he's the screenwriter that adapted that novella for the screen. Mm-hmm. And it stars Amy Adams as Louise Banks. She is a linguist who is hired by the U.S. military to help communicate with mysterious beings who have arrived on our planet. There are also supporting roles from Jeremy Renner and Forrest Whitaker in this film. And this was nominated for 8 Oscars. Mm-hmm. This was a notoriously competitive Oscars year. Moonlight won Best Picture this year. La La Land won a bunch of the production side Oscars this year. So unfortunately, Arrival only won 1 of its 8 Oscar nominations, and that was for Best Sound Editing. So a notoriously under-awarded film, I would say, in the culture.
Yeah, I want to say starring a notoriously under-awarded actor as well. Amy Adams
has not won Best Actress.
Yeah. She's been nominated 6 times for Academy Awards and 7 BAFTAs.
And let's just say she was not nominated for her role in this film.
Okay, that's interesting, but I guess I'm not necessarily surprised at that one. I thought she was good in this film, but I wasn't seeing enough acting.
Okay, well, we'll be sure to get more into that as we get into the film. But Geoff, before we do, I wanted to ask you, I got into a little bit just now, but what's your history with Denis Villeneuve? And what were your expectations? What had you heard about this film before you went in as a first-time viewer?
I heard that it was a beautiful film, and that's pretty much it. I didn't really know a ton about it. I knew that she was like a professor of some kind, a linguist we now know, who was brought in by the military to communicate with these extraterrestrials, but I didn't really know much beyond that. I have to say the marketing was done extremely well for this film to get you interested in it, but not give anything away.
Right.
And I feel like people, because this film was so lauded and appreciated, people have been really good about not spoiling the film. So I had no idea what the real premise was, aside from that this person is coming to communicate with these extraterrestrials. That's all that I knew.
You
I
love
didn't
to
learn
hear
anything about it.
You love to hear that, because this is a film. It's a sci-fi film, and I think that while it is based on a novella, that gives it a lot of space to breathe. It's not like an action-packed film, but it is a film where the plot developments are important, is what I'll say.
Not a lot happened in terms of action, like you said, but the movie actually moved at a really good clip.
Mm-hmm.
They did a good job of with a lot of things, but just as for an audience watching it, they made what could easily be a very obtuse film and topic very digestible. And, I think this is a credit to Villeneuve's directing, because we've discussed this in Dune as well. He took an idea that was relatively abstract and that definitely had a lot of science fiction elements of it, but fit it into for the viewers, fit it into a world in which the physics make sense and don't have to be over explained, and we just kind of accept things at face value.
Yeah.
And we've talked about that before with Dune, one of the big successes of his direction being that.
Yeah, it's fascinating to think about this film in the context of Denis Villeneuve's career, because this is the middle of a 3-film run from 2015 to 2017 that I think if you look at any of those 3 films, you can see clearly the DNA that passed from that period of his career to Dune.
Yeah.
And, obviously for the last few years, he's been involved heavily with the Dune trilogy. So he's currently in the middle of, I think, post-production of Dune Part 3, which is due to come out later this year.
Thanksgiving.
But the 3-film run that I'm talking about are Sicario, which is kind of like a drug thriller. And you can see a lot of the action chops that he shows in Dune present in Sicario. The Sicario was an Emily Blunt, Josh Brolin film. Josh Brolin, a frequent collaborator of his, he's present in the Dune films. And then Arrival came next. The clear shared DNA between Arrival and Dune is the sense of scale, right? So there are some incredible shots in Arrival of kind of the spaceships that the aliens arrive in.
Yeah.
And the landscape that surrounds them. And these long drone shots that are just breathtaking. And it reminds me so much of the shots of spacecraft in Dune. It's very one-to-one, and it gives a very similar sense of awe and scale. So I think that's really incredible. And then after Arrival, he did Blade Runner 2049. And this was a film, I think you and I have talked about it before, and you were like, I don't think I'll like that one. But the thing about Blade Runner 2049 is that it's based on an existing IP that has a lot of baggage associated with it, right? So Sicario is an original story. Arrival, based on a novella, but not IP, right? This is not a Marvel movie or based on a well-known sci-fi franchise. Blade Runner has a lot of fans, has a lot of baggage in the cinema world. And it's impressive how he was able to work within that IP to make Blade Runner work as it's a legacy sequel in the same spirit as something like The Devil Wears Prada 2. Yeah. Right. So I think that those 3 films are kind of the training ground for Dune in a lot of ways, in that it kind of honed Villeneuve's skills in these 3 different zones that enabled him to kind of be the perfect storm of a filmmaker to adapt this unadaptable series of novels. So it's interesting to look at it in that way. And I'll say that this was my first Villeneuve film. So I watched Arrival, I believe, in the theater. I think I was in New Mexico. And I was into it because it was this big idea sci-fi thing. Mm-hmm. But it hit so much harder than I was expecting. And then after watching Arrival, I went back and watched Sicario. I went back and watched Enemy and Prisoners, which are some of his earlier films, which are a little bit weirder, a little bit more indie feeling. And I just became a fan from then on. I was like, I'm going to watch anything this guy makes. So let's get into our thoughts on the film, high level, Geoff. So walking away from the film, what did you think of it? How did it rank up with some of your favorite other Villeneuve films like Dune and Dune 2?
It's hard to compare the 2 the 3 because they're very different films. Those are very much action films and heavy science fiction. And I would say this is sci-fi light. Mm-hmm. But I agree. I think the cinematography in it is really beautiful. He kept it moving at a good clip. I was at no point this is slow or I'm bored.
Less than 2 hours.
Yeah, which I love. I thought ultimately it was a really fascinating idea. Generally, when we have extraterrestrials show up in our media, it is a villainous encounter.
Yeah.
Or they come here with like malintent. And so to have these beings come to Earth where their intentions are not immediately clear, and the characters have to like, we join the characters in discovering what their purpose here is, was kind of interesting. That kind of like mystery of it I found really enrapturing.
I think this is my favorite Villeneuve film still. Like that, he's an incredible director, and I love the Dune films, so like everything he does is incredible. But there's something about, again, like adapting a novella where there's the pacing of this film is just perfect, right? It doesn't feel rushed. It doesn't feel like it is overlong, right? It feels like it's exactly as long as it needs to be. I agree with you about it never feeling boring. This reminds me of another film that I talked about on the pod, which is All the President's Men. That film is about like journalism, which is dry, right? It can be dry if it's done poorly. Mm-hmm. The same way that like the scientific method can be very dry if done poorly. But this film manages to make like this question of linguistically, how do we communicate with these creatures? Mm-hmm. They make that question like basically the premise of like it's like analogous like a crime thriller, like it's a mystery to solve, right? And it's really fascinating the way that they do that. It's one of the best portrayals of like scientific discovery and problem solving in film, I think. I mean, it's not like perfect scientifically by any means. Like there's a couple of leaps of logic that you have to make in order for the film to make sense. But
sure,
it is like a really great exploration of linguistic concepts, right? So there's this idea that's brought up in the film of the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis, I believe is what it's called, which is basically the language that you speak, how you communicate shapes the way that you think. Mm-hmm. And this is a concept that, again, is kind of like a dry concept, but like the more you think about it, the more like kind of brain melting and paradigm shifting it can be. And this film, something that Ted Chiang, who is the author of the original novella, does really well in all of his stories is takes these like scientific concepts and grounds them in like human emotion. And basically allows you to connect with them in that way and kind of understand them on a deeper level by connecting them with like a human story. And that's the other thing that I think about this film is that it's easily Villeneuve's most emotional film. Like I think that the last maybe 20 minutes or so are just like an absolute freight train, like up level, like first 15 minutes of up level emotional powerhouse. Mm-hmm. This is my third time watching it. And I watched it with a couple friends last night. Shout out Bridget and Elizabeth. I was like tearing up watching it again, even though I knew it was going to happen, right? Very emotional ending. And the way that it's delivered is also the best kind of twist, where I think that people kind of figure it out on their own before the movie goes ahead and like completely says it outright.
Yeah.
Which I think is the best, because when you have this feeling of being able to discover it yourself, it's even more kind of paradigm shifting in the way that you've been thinking about the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is like one of my favorite films. It's just an absolute banger from front to back. And to talk about Amy Adams' performance, I agree with you that there's not a ton of like big acting being done, right? I think that her performance is really the only performance to talk about. Everybody else is kind of an archetype, right? Even Jeremy Renner, who is probably the second biggest star here or second biggest role here, he's mostly just playing like charming man number 2, like he's not really doing anything crazy. He just has to have a little bit of chemistry with Amy Adams. Mm-hmm. But I think that Amy Adams' character, Louise, does have like a pretty interesting challenge because of the nature of the plot of the film, where she has to play nuanced forms of grief, confusion, love, obviously. And I think that she does it really well, and it's not really over the top, but I think it's one of Amy Adams' best performances, in my opinion.
Really? Okay.
I haven't seen a lot of her earlier stuff, so that's on me. I haven't seen a lot of those things, but...
Justin, have you ever seen, I think like her first film role, which is...
Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Drop Dead Gorgeous. Oh my God, why could I not think of that?
I have not seen Drop Dead Gorgeous.
How? Oh my God, we have to watch it.
She does have a cameo in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the television show. Oh, really? Yeah. So she was like in a bunch of stuff early on and was kind of like a side character in a lot of those things until she kind of like became understood in the town of Hollywood as like, oh, she can be like a lead. But I agree with you. I think she's like a little bit underappreciated in the space. And I think that people don't really know, directors and producers don't really know what to do with her at this point in her career. I think she's kind of like transitioned into mom roles now. Like she was in Sharp Objects.
Night Bitch. Did you ever watch that?
Have not seen it. I'm interested though. I'd watch it. She played like the second lady in Vice or whatever. So like she's kind of transitioned out of that. She was kind of like the hot girl role in her early days, and now she's kind of transitioned into like mom stuff.
Yeah.
Which again, this is like a problem with casting women in Hollywood. You know, it's like once you reach a certain age, you know, unfortunately, you're perceived as only being good at like doing one or two things.
Unfuckable.
Unfortunate.
Make her a mom or something.
What's that sketch? It was
That's
an
all the
SNL
guys
sketch that Julia Louis-Dreyfus was doing, right?
Oh, it wasn't. It was actually from Inside Amy Schumer.
Inside Amy Schumer, that's what it is.
Yes,
yep,
it's
that's what
when
I'm
they
thinking of.
just like basically give them a Viking funeral, and they're like, "You're no longer fuckable. Good to see you."
Yeah,
and it's like Julia Louis-Dreyfus, Tina Fey, some other people.
Yeah, great sketch. Always think about that. But yeah, I think that this is my favorite of her roles. I think. Why don't we go into some spoilery talk to talk about the ending of the film?
Let's spoil.
What's up, y'all? Editor Justin here. If you want to skip spoilers for Arrival, you can go ahead and skip to the 1 hour, 32 minute mark. All right, let's get back to the show.
Spoilers abound, F-slurs.
So, Geoff, I would love to know, at what point, what line read was it that you were like, oh, some of these things that we've been seeing about, you know, Louisa's daughter passing away is actually something that happens in the future and not the past? Is this something that you were clued into really early, or did you only figure it out later in the film?
I think the line that you're referencing, which is probably well after you realized it, was when she said, "I know why my husband left me," and Jeremy Renner says, "You're married? Or you were married?"
That was the line?
Yeah.
Damn.
You realized it much earlier, right?
It wasn't much earlier. There's kind of like a sequence. Oh. I think this is like a genius screenwriting feat that they pulled this off, because it came from a medium where nonlinear storytelling is much more common in writing, right? So like in the Novello version, you kind of have these like vignettes, like paragraph long vignettes that are clearly nonlinear from the beginning.
Okay.
And you kind of have to figure out where in the timeline each of these falls. And it's kind of throughout reading the Novello, which is pretty short, that you figure out, okay, this is in the future, and it's not really like a twist moment. But in the film, because of the nature of the medium of film, like you think about it in a linear way. And it's a bigger challenge. And the fact that they managed to make it into as big of a twist as it was, I think is incredible. And they kind of give the audience multiple cues, like in like maybe a 5-minute period.
Okay. Well, illuminate me, because I think I must have missed these.
Well, the first line I remember in the theater being like, hold on, was when Amy Adams says to her daughter, like, oh, if you want science, ask your father. This is intercut with, you think it's a flashback, but of course it's a flash forward. And this is intercut with cuts to Jeremy Renner's character.
Oh, okay.
So my initial thought was in the theater, like, wait, did they know each other already and they just haven't said it, and maybe they got divorced? Like, is that what this is about?
Got it.
And then the line that really got it for me was when she said, because this is a part of the same flashback, but we've been cutting back and forth. But when she says, like, it's a non-zero sum game to her daughter, because her daughter's asking her for some specific language to use. And then it cuts back to the present, and Jeremy Renner's character, Ian, says non-zero sum game. And it's like she's remembering from the past, right? And that's the moment where I was like, oh my God. And I remember the feeling in the theater when I realized it was like I was rocked back in my seat. I was like, oh my God. Great revelation. And then, like, you know, then there's multiple other ones after that, like the line that you mentioned where she was like, I know why me and my husband separated. And I think that, you know, it more explicitly lays it out. She's speaking to the alien, and the alien is like, you know, this opens up time for you. You can perceive time the way that we do. And again, the hypothesis that I mentioned earlier about the language that you learn being able to rewire your brain into thinking a different way. So there's like a lot of laying of groundwork so that you can kind of figure it out yourself, hopefully, before it's said, like, in the text of the film. So what did you think about, like, the twist? Did you think it was like a satisfying twist? What did you think of it conceptually?
I thought it was interesting. I had never heard of what is it called? The Sapir-Whorf theory?
It's the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis.
I had never heard of this before. So it was interesting to learn about that concept, which is that language is a determining factor of how you interpret.
The hypothesis is basically that the language that you use affects the way that you think. It's as simple as that. The same way that people that are bilingual or multilingual have dreams in different languages, or they'll think.
Right.
It's the same way that, like, writing something, for me personally, if I write something, it helps me think through an idea, right? Because the brain is wired in such a way that networks and connections are formed by repeated activity and patterns, right? And so if you are thinking in a specific pattern, that strengthens that connection in your brain. So if you continuously think in a similar pattern because you're using a language that, you know, uses a specific pattern based on the, you know, principles of whatever linguistics you're using, your brain changes, right? Like the way that you think changes. That's the hypothesis. Yeah. And I think that that's what Ted Chiang is so good at in all of his short stories is, again, just these concepts that are like quietly perception altering and like connecting them with a human story that allows you to kind of understand it at a deeper level, I think. Were you surprised by the twist?
Yes. I was a little bit surprised because she seemed a little bit depressed from the jump in the current timeline that the movie's taking place in.
Right.
So I kind of assumed that she was depressed because she was experiencing grief of the loss of her daughter. But I think that like as time went on, she started having these flashbacks and what appeared to be flash forwards, and that became more obvious as we got further in with the movie. I was like, okay, this all must be happening before she's had her daughter even. Which brought up a lot of questions for me.
Okay, name them. I'll answer them.
The first, I'm like, why is she so sad? That was the first question.
Why is who so sad? And at what point in time, I should say?
Amy Adams' character.
Just at the beginning?
Yeah. She seems like kind of like, I don't know, she just like is a very flat kind of character almost. She didn't emote a lot. Even like when the alien stuff was happening and her students were all, and her colleagues were all like kind of freaking out about it. She was just like, all right, well, anyway, here's what today's lesson's about. And they're all on their phones, and she's like, something to share? And they're like, yeah, have you watched the news? The FERC? And she's just like, whatever. And she just goes home and like goes to bed, doesn't seem to be worried. We like see like one conversation she has with someone who I think is her mom.
It's her mom, yeah.
She was like, I'm fine, Mom. I wouldn't worry about it. And I'm like, what do you mean you wouldn't worry about it? This is alarming to everyone.
I mean, I think
it was just odd to me. Her whole persona was a little off.
Well, I guess I think that a lot of people are like that. You know, a lot of films are heightened in terms of the emotion that people play. You know what I mean? And that's, again, this is what I like about Amy Adams' performance, is that it felt very muted in a positive way and nuanced. Because you can interpret her performance during that early part of the film as either mourning, you know, in a state of mourning because of her dead daughter, which is what the movie wants you to think so that it can kind of pull the twist later in the film.
Yep.
Or she's just like kind of a disaffected academic. Do you know what I mean? Like, which again, you know, somebody who has a background in academia, there's a lot of people like this, you know, people that live a solitary life and they're completely dedicated to their work. And I think it is interesting because of the kind of emotional resonance that comes later in the film when she realizes that her daughter is going to die, right? Like, she knows ahead of time that her daughter is going to have this incurable, early onset aggressive disease. And she still decides to, I mean, there's a whole conversation about like determinism. Can you change what's going to happen or not? That the film kind of dodges. But either way, she accepts the idea of having her daughter. And like, despite the fact that she knows that her daughter is going to die, she still gets a lot of joy out of those moments with her.
That is the only time when I felt like when she was actually communicating with the aliens, and the scenes where we see her interacting with her daughter are the only time she like has any kind of emotional display, which is very interesting to me.
Yeah.
I also want to ask, how did she afford this absolutely gorgeous, huge house on the water as an academic?
Okay, that's inexplicable. Can't explain that one. That one is just clearly for the cinematography purposes.
Which, you know? I was like, the movie would be stronger without that aspect, because I'm like, there has to be a reason here. There has to be something here as to how she's able to have this kind of a lifestyle.
I mean, she clearly does government academic contract work. Like, that's the only thing I could come up with, is that maybe if she's doing
that lucrative.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not that lucrative.
I agree. I do think that shot at the very beginning is like a gorgeous shot.
It's beautiful. Yeah. But it's a bit of a red herring for me.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's like a distraction.
I think that everything in films matters. Everything. Because it really can make or break the reality of the scene that they're trying to set.
Yeah. I just like, you know, this apartment is too expensive for these people to be living there is like such a common film problem, you know, that I'm kind of like willing to give them a break on in this particular context, given the quality of the rest.
You're holding space for their creative decisions.
Well, I think it's like a really gorgeous shot because it is a cyclical thing about how the movie begins and ends, right? So the movie opens with a shot of this home. And every time that I rewatch it, I key in on the fact that there are 2 wine glasses on the table.
Oh,
You know after you finish the film that this is basically as their daughter, Louise and Ian's daughter, is being conceived. So like the movie begins at the moment of conception of their daughter, and then it's kind of like this branching, forking path that goes to the future and also to the past.
the past.
And the film ends, of course, with just before the conception, when Ian and Louise are kind of like dancing around drinking wine in the same home, right? And he uses the same musical cue.
Yep.
Which is, this now I think is kind of like a cliche because it was used in Hamnet, and it was heavily criticized in Hamnet for being kind of cliche.
Spoiler.
It was like in the trailers for Hamnet. That was the level of like like how kind of played out this song has become, I think, to some people.
Got it.
But this was the first time I had heard it. On the Nature of Daylight, I think, is the name of the song. Max Richter is the name of the composer of that track. And I will say that the music and the sound design otherwise in the film is also really great.
Yeah.
Johan Johansson is the name of the composer. And he's actually passed away since Arrival came out, which is unfortunate. But he also did an incredible job with the score in this film outside of that pre-existing work that had been used in prior stuff.
Damn. Justin, have I ever told you that cliche is an onomatopoeia?
No. Well, how is it an onomatopoeia?
Well, cliche is a French-derived word from the verb cliché, ER, which means to click. And it was kind of coined by French printers because in the 1800s, when they developed the printing press and used it frequently in France, it made that like clinking metallic sound, cliché, cliché. And that's how they described it. And so it was something that was like repetitive. It was like the sound of the metal printing process.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
So that's why cliché is like an onomatopoeia, because it's a sound, but it also has to do with like it being repeated over and over. And that's why that's how we use it now as a descriptor.
It's a very fun fact.
How's that about linguistics?
Linguistics,
How's that
baby?
for your linguistics lesson for the day? Oh, I did think of The Interpreter. Did you ever watch that film?
No, I don't think so.
2005 film, Nicole Kidman. I remember watching it in theaters in high school, and I said, I'm going to work at the UN and become a French interpreter for my job. The only connection of the movies is that they're both linguists. That's all. It has nothing to do with each other otherwise. The Interpreter is like a political thriller.
Okay. So as always,
so very different.
On point.
Well,
with the references.
What can I say? Oh, wait. There's something I wanted to talk about this film.
Mm-hmm.
Arrival. When Forrest Whitaker comes in, Mr. Lazy Eye himself, and he tells her, I don't know if we're going to hire you. We might go to your colleague instead, who's at like Wake Forest or whatever competing university. I can't remember.
Right. I think it's Berkeley.
She's like, oh yeah, Berkeley. She's like, well, before you hire him, ask him what the Sanskrit word for war is. That's what she asks him.
Yeah.
And so then he comes back with a word, gavisti, I think. And he says it means an argument. And he says, what do you think it means? And she said, a desire for more cows.
Yeah.
And she gets a job. And what I liked about this was, as somebody who does know another language, to an extent, I'm not an expert, not fluid necessarily. Fluent. I ain't fluid. I am not 100% fluent. But I think that question does highlight her expertise, because I think before this, it's sort of like, why is she the person being chosen for the job? There doesn't seem to be anything special about her. And that kind of goes along with how I was saying she doesn't seem to emote very much. She doesn't come off as like a remarkable main character until that moment for me, because she's taking the literal translation of the word and filling in the context of what the word really means and giving the context of the way in which the indigenous speakers of Sanskrit used it.
Yeah.
And so it's not an argument. It was a desire for more cows, which led to battle and war and thievery, that kind of thing. So I think that's an important part of the movie, because we're seeing that she's not just like, it's not that she's just like knows a lot of languages and can study language in the way that it forms on a theoretical basis. She has like practical contextual knowledge that makes her a better option for them, because these military people, even though they do a bunch of stupid shit in this movie, which drove me crazy, they had the understanding to realize that the nuance of language is going to be extremely important when you're communicating with entities that do not have any kind of similar structure of language, or may not. They don't know, right?
Yeah, they never even actually understand the audio or the auditory version of their language. Right. They only ever translate the written version.
Yep. Very fascinating.
It's a very anti-military film.
Yes.
With the exception of maybe Forrest Whitaker's character, who kind of acts as the liaison between Louise and the rest of the military. Importantly, he's not involved with the kind of like little mini coup that some of the soldiers try to pull off.
So stupid. Made me mad.
Yeah, I think the point of that story, I mean, there's another example of this, which is the kangaroo story that she tells.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a lie. But she knows how to sell these concepts of linguistics, right? And it presages what becomes kind of like the critical conflict, which is this use of the aliens of the word weapon, or at least what the humans interpret as the word weapon. But the aliens actually are using to mean like a tool or technology.
A tool. Exactly.
It's a great, again, way of getting these linguistic ideas about how language is so muddy and subjective into a film in an exciting way. It makes people, I think it is a great way. It's like a great pop science communication case study. I mean, I'm fascinated. I think I became fascinated with linguistics partially because of this movie. And that's something that Ted Chiang does in all of his short stories again, and also an incredible screenwriting job. Great adaptation.
Yeah. You know what, Justin? A short story is great for a movie.
I think a novella is like the perfect length for an adaptation.
Yeah, it really is, because you don't get a lot of fluff. You're not like, oh, what important stuff do I have to cut out? It's like, no, the story is like already edited and pared back. Like, this is perfect for a film that's not 17 hours long.
And it has space to have, you know, these long lingering shots of this landscape, for example, in Arrival. Yeah. Or these fun montages of like trying to figure out how to translate this language, or, you know, it's just great. I also think, you know, back to your point about Louise and how she doesn't seem like a main character, at least sometimes. And you were like, until she's able to kind of sell her concepts to these military liaisons. I said this like before, but I think this is a great example of how this is a great portrayal of scientists, because science, in a lot of ways, at least like applied science, is very much like a balance between trying to be as nuanced and correct as you can while like delivering the important takeaway message as effectively as you can to the people that need to know that information. And I think what makes Louise a great scientist in this context is that she is able to like get across the nuanced ideas in a simple way to her overseers.
Hence the kangaroo lie.
Yes, exactly. Any final thoughts on the film before we close and we get to our what's goods?
I firstly love that they depicted the heptapods sort of like octopods that we know on Earth. Thought that was fascinating and interesting. I like the way that they learned to communicate with Louise just through simple words, like some would call it broken English or an ESL style. It felt very realistic, and it wasn't like suddenly they're able to communicate telepathically or whatever. I really liked that this movie focused on language in context being just as important as understanding and a literal translation. And I also think that it did a great job of, like you said, highlighting the like negative aspects of like military force and about the human propensity for violence.
Yeah.
That is in this film not a universal trait along highly intelligent species.
Right. Yeah, it is interesting that like there's like a lot of questions that follow from the events of the film, right? Like, what is this event in 3,000 years that the heptapods will need our help with?
Right.
How does human society change once everybody is perceiving time non-linearly? You know, is another
question.
About
how the fuck did we make it another 3,000 years?
Well, I think that's kind of what the aliens came to Earth to do, right? They came to share this non-linear perception of time so that we wouldn't all kill ourselves. If they hadn't come, then we would have all killed I think that's the implication of the film, right? Is that without the aliens' help, without the heptapods' help, we would have self-destructed. So instead, they're coming and they're giving us this gift of technology so that we can see the future, so to speak, and avoid these conflicts.
Yeah.
I do also just want to really quickly point out the parallel that brought us to doing this episode, which is in Watchmen. You know, Dr. Manhattan knows that he is going to die and knows that his relationship with Angela is going to end badly, and he still decides to do it. And for me, the moment in Arrival where I start welling up is when she's talking to her daughter, who's asking her why her father is like treating her differently. And it's because Louise tells Ian at some point that she knows that she's going to die from this like incurable disease.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that for a second.
And Ian leaves basically, and that's why they separate.
Yeah.
And that's the part that I always get emotional about, because again, it's this like desire to like go through the process even if the ending is tragic.
Yeah, that pissed me off. I don't like Ian.
Which Ian's part, yes. Ian does not seem very well emotionally regulated because of his decision to do that, you know? I think that he doesn't seem 100%. Very mature in his thinking there.
I think that's crazy. I don't like that. Also, the renegade soldiers made me mad.
The podcaster that sounded frighteningly like Tucker Carlson.
He sounded like that even crazier guy who was like the one who denied that Sandy Hook happened.
Alex Jones.
I think he was supposed to be like a stand-in for Alex Jones.
Yeah, he was definitely supposed to be more Alex Jones. But I remember when I was like just listening to his voice, I was like, damn, he sounds a lot like Tucker Carlson. I think Tucker Carlson has changed his cadence to sound more like Alex Jones.
Doing?
Exactly.
That's the goal now. That's the rule. I hate him. He's one of the most punchable faces I've ever seen in my fucking life, you know? Those little fucking faggy bow ties. Get the fuck out of here, sir. Who are you even trying to fool? You know you're sucking dick at the Vineyard Vines changing room.
Vineyard Vines.
Take several seats.
But yeah, I just think it's a wonderful film. Yeah. I think it's really nice.
Oh, I thought it was sad when Abbott was going through death process.
That was sad, wasn't it?
That was a bummer. I know, it became very, like, fond of these, like, elephantine-looking heptapods.
I think the creature design is also really good.
Yeah, it was very interesting.
They look believable and also, like, really alien.
Yes.
I mean, it's a pet peeve, and this happens all the time in sci-fi, but I really enjoy when creature designers have, like, truly unique and, like, non-human looking alien designs, you know?
Yeah, I do, too. I'm tired of, like, the little gray Martian type with the big eyes and whatnot.
Or just, like, aliens that are just humans but blue, you know?
Yeah.
Not the best. Okay, well, Geoff, let's close on our Arrival discussion, and we'll come right back in a few seconds with our What's Good.
We love to arrive, but I also like to depart. And we're back.
Geoff, we're so back. What a wonderful conversation about Arrival. Love that movie.
I loved it too. It was a very good one. Denis Villeneuve, you did it again, girl. And it's again time for us to talk about a little something of pop culture that we're enjoying. Something that is fresh. New, fascinating.
Okay.
And Justin, I'd like to ask you, what's good this week?
Well, Geoff, I'm bringing a game to the pod today. This is a game that came out early 2025 called Citizen Sleeper 2 Starward Vector. This is from the developer Jump Over the Age, who have previously published Citizen Sleeper 1, or developed Citizen Sleeper 1, I should say, and In Other Waters, which I think is a really underrated and underplayed game. But this one was pretty big because Citizen Sleeper 1 was a very well-regarded game that won a bunch of Game of the Year awards with the year that it came out. I think it came out like 2022 or 2023. This is the sequel. So this is a sci-fi role-playing game.
Mm-hmm.
The concept is that you play as a sleeper. That's the sleeper of the title. Sleepers are kind of like robot shells that house like a human consciousness. And in this world, humans, if they're like in debt or if they want to make some money, they can basically rent out their consciousness to like drive a robot. And it's kind of like Severance in some ways, where their robot self is like off in outer space doing these horrible menial tasks. And then because they've kind of sold their soul literally to this corporation, these humans can live on Earth and like, you know, have fun with it or whatever.
It also reminds me of like, what was that anime? Evangelion?
Yeah, on Genesis Evangelion?
Yeah, that's it. You say Parisian, I say Evangelion.
None of us are perfect pronunciators, you know?
No,
we're trying our best.
We're trying. Or Avatar.
Yeah, it's similar to Avatar, except like you're literally selling out this other version of yourself to do these like menial tasks.
Awful.
And they're completely under control of this corporation, and you have to take this drug called stabilizer to stay alive as a sleeper. So you're literally like beholden, not just like because somebody told you to be, but like you're biologically like you cannot continue to exist unless you hang out with this corporation and do what they say, because they give you the stabilizer to stay alive. And basically, like, it's actually a lot like reading a book in a lot of ways. It's very text based. The actual screen when you play this game is really just like an image of like a space station with different locations where you can perform different actions. But like whenever you perform an action at a given location, most of the action takes place like in text. So you're reading a lot of words. It's a lot like reading a book. And the language, thankfully, the writing is really good, which one of the many reasons I love this game. Hey all, Justin here. As I'm editing, I realized that I made it seem like there isn't much visually to this game, which is just a complete mischaracterization. So I have to mention that there are really beautiful character portraits from cartoonist Guillaume Sangalon that have a really grimy yet stylish, detailed look. And the UI and font work is incredible. It's super clean and minimal contrast with the character art. It's really an incredible looking game. But anyways, let's get back to the show. The way that the gameplay works is that every day there's like different day cycles that you go through as you like live on in these outer space places. And every day you're given a set of 5 dice that are randomly, any value from 1 to 6. And, if you use like a 6 die on a action, you're more likely to succeed. And if you use a 1, you're much less likely to succeed. So the strategy of the game is to choose which dice you use on which tasks. It can be like you want to try to find somebody, so you go to a bar and you hang out there. Or it can be like you need some money, so you go and work a job or something like that. I guess like the overall thrust of both of the stories in Citizen Sleeper 1 and 2 is that you're trying to create like a community and a home despite your kind of like difficult circumstances being a sleeper. There are a lot of themes of like, I guess like body horror, because you're like this human consciousness stuck in this robot body that is disintegrating sometimes, and in other ways are superhuman. You're able to do things that human people cannot do. What's new about Citizen Sleeper 2, Citizen Sleeper 1 all took place on one space station and you never changed location, so it was all in one place. And like as you explored the space station, you met new people and you kind of like built a home on this station. The difference is that in Citizen Sleeper 2 you're on the run, so you manage to escape from your corporate overlords. You don't need a stabilizer anymore, but the people that were in charge of you are chasing you down. So you need to like move from place to place across, the solar system to stay away from them. This introduces like a lot of interesting things because you can't stay in one place for too long or they'll come and they'll kidnap you basically and put you back into your state of like indentured servitude. You have a very limited amount of time to do what you need to do at each location. It also introduces the ability to have like a crew. So because you're traveling from place to place, you can meet characters at each of these locations and you can add them to like your spaceship and bring them along with you to all these other places. And they can help you out on contracts, which are like these short missions where maybe you're trying to find like a specific object in a broken down container ship somewhere in the middle of space, and you only have like a couple of days to do it. The pressure that you have to move from location to location is new in this game, and also the ability to have these other characters act as other parts of your crew who get their own dice basically to perform actions themselves. That's another new part of the game. Yeah, so it's just like really nice, and despite like the kind of like dark sounding premise, both of these games end up becoming very warm by the end because you've formed all of these relationships with these other people that you've met in your journeys. And it's like a, late capitalist community building game is how I would describe it, I guess, like conceptually. So it's really fun. I treat these games like reading a book. I'll like have my Switch and I'll just like play it in bed before I fall asleep. Been really enjoying it. And the music is really good. The composer is named Amos Roddy. And it's this really cool like ambient music, and I play it in the background when I'm working a lot. Definitely check out the soundtrack.
Amos Roddy?
Amosroddy. Roddy.
Oh, I'm glad you spelled that. I would not have known. I was thinking ROTI. But I guess that would be more like Roti.
That's
like Roti Roll.
Yes.
Remember that?
Of course.
Good times.
We love Roti. Yeah, so Citizen Sleeper 2, Starward Vector, it's like available on everything. I think you can get it on even the original Switch. You can get it on Xbox, on PC, whatever you play games on.
Even the original Switch.
Yep.
The original Switch, bitch.
It's a fun one. And the first one is also out too. So you should play both, honestly. They're great games.
Citizen Sleeper 2, Starward Vector.
That's right, Geoff. And now that we've gone through Citizen Sleeper 2, I would love to know what's been good with you this week.
Well, Justin, I, in keeping with the theme of linguistics, had a really fun time this weekend. I visited some extended family in Jersey, and was there for the weekend. And while there, we played an age-old party game that involves words. And I have to tell you, had a great time doing it. It was very fun.
If your what's good is Scrabble, I will laugh.
Do I look like a Scrabble? Bitch, do I look like a Scrabble?
Bananagrams?
No, Justin. This was the game Taboo! 1989 party game by Hasbro.
Never heard of it.
You've never heard of it?
Just kidding, I've obviously heard of it.
Okay, this is such a fun game, and it really stands the test of time. This is an old-ass game, Justin. It's been around for a very long time. Basically, for those who don't know, if you've been living under a fucking rock, Taboo is a word-guessing game, and the object of the game is for the player to have their teammates guess a word on the player's card, and the player who's holding the card can't use that word itself or 5 additional words that are listed on the card to prompt their teammates to guess what their secret taboo word is. I played this with quite a few people. I think there was like 14 of us, so we did teams of 7. It was extremely fun. It was very funny. I enjoyed the challenge of trying to make links between words. This sounds so stupid.
You're like, hey listeners, y'all ever played Taboo? Pretty cool. And that's the episode, team.
Okay, well, Taboo is a great game, and I think it's like slept on. Like, not many people play it anymore.
I think a lot of people play it, but
Justin, everyone's into Secret Hitler now. Everyone wants to do apples to apples, which, by the way, is not fun.
Listen, here's a hot take I can get behind. I don't think apples to apples is fun either. And I also think, listen, Cards Against Humanity, the people that run that game, they seem to be good people. You know, they're giving a lot of money to good causes and whatnot, but
overplayed.
It's played out.
It's so played out. It's so dusty, tired, corny, and played out. We're done with that. I think it's back to the basics. Back to Taboo.
Taboo, however.
Taboo is really fun.
Here's the thing about Taboo that I think is cool. Is that, and this is similar to why like Secret Hitler is cool and why all these social games are cool, is because you're always playing to whoever you're trying to communicate. Like your strategy depends on the crowd.
It's very political. It's very Survivor. You've got to adapt and adjust your gameplay.
Like if you're playing with your family, you're going to say a totally different word to get at the taboo word than you would if you're playing with like your friends from home.
Agree.
I think that's the fun part about that game.
Let's play Taboo on our Tour de Towny weekend.
I thought you were going to say on the pod. I was like, no, but that's going to be our least popular episode of all time.
We will not be doing that on the podcast. Even I know that's not a good idea for the pod. Even I know.
I'd be down next time I'm home.
I think it'll be a great time. Okay, let me show you my other thing that was almost what's good, but it's like truly not any kind of media. I just want to show it to you. Hold on.
That's okay.
I stand here before you holding a beautiful flower display, if I do say so myself.
That is.
I'll have you notice that these flowers are standing conspicuously upright. Are you noticing this? Are you seeing this?
Sure. What, is there some kind of device you're using to keep them in that structure?
Well, Justin, there sure is. I've been meaning to buy one of these for years, and I found them on Temu. It was a nice pack of them for $3. I hold before your little eyes a flower pin frog. Essentially, what this does is allows you to stick the stems of flowers in between these little pins so that they sit upright in a vase, and you suction cup it to the bottom of the vase, and it gives you more control about placing the flowers for an attractive display.
For the listeners, this looks kind of like a comb, a circular comb without a handle.
Correct. That is exactly what it looks like. And then it has little suction cups on the bottom of it that you put at the bottom of whatever vessel you choose, whether it be a vase, a jar, a glass, even.
Mm-hmm.
As long as it fits, the flowers will get stuck right into these little pins and hold them upright, allowing you maximum creative control over your beautiful blooms.
Wow. And that is what's good.
Allowing an attractive display like this.
Geoff, I can't help but notice that Mulholland Drive was not your what's good.
I thought about it, but I actually think that it might be fun to do an episode on it in the future as a rewind.
Okay. Leaving our options open.
That's why I didn't select it as my what's good, but I did very much enjoy the film, and I have so many questions about it, so many thoughts, some theorems, that I think it warrants a larger discussion.
David Lynch, weird guy.
Very weird guy. I now want to find like what other movies he's done.
Oh, I mean, there's so many. You got to watch Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks is really the one, I think.
Well, I have been watching Twin Peaks for like about 4 years now.
When's the last time you just watched an episode?
Probably in January. I watched like episode 7, I think, of season 2. I think that's what I'm on. I'm either on 7 or I just finished 7.
I will say season 2 easily the weakest. Tough season.
It's been hard to watch, honestly, because it's just been like pretty slow and pretty weird and seeming like, okay, well, like the big mystery of the show's over, so what are we really doing now?
Yeah.
It's weird how it got broken up. But Mulholland Drive definitely had so much of the same, what I now know is like Fincher DNA in it, because I was like, wow, this music is so similar to...
You mean Lynchian DNA? Lynch DNA?
Yeah. Is that what I said?
I said Fincher. Like David Fincher, which is another director I love, but yeah, I think a little bit different vibe-wise, yeah.
David Lynchian DNA, yeah. Okay, well, my brain is fully bad. I definitely have like advanced dementia at this time, so this may be the last podcast you hear from me, but it's been a really fun ride, and I'll try to make it to 100 and do the mailbag episode, but no guarantees, listeners dear.
Well, Geoff, the journey is always worth it, despite how bad the destination may be, as we learned in the 2016 film Arrival. So
we sure did. That's the takeaway.
With that, see you next week. We're going to be covering Beef Season 2. We didn't forget. We just pushed it back 1 week.
Yeah, sorry about that. That was my fault because I'm flopping. As we've said, I can't remember anything.
No flops present. Bye.
Next time, bye. Next time, I didn't even say see you next time. Good God.
This has been Bants with Geoff and Justin. Bants is created and produced by Geoff Taylor and Justin Benavides. Graphic design by Geoff. Editing by me. The theme music for Bants is the track Nebraska With You by Sam Day and is provided by No Copyright Sounds. Email us at bantspod@gmail.com with any questions, recommendations, or just to say hi. If you like the podcast, rate and review us on Apple, Spotify, or YouTube. And tell your friends. Bye.
Bye. Justin, I just learned there's a new single by Ariana Grande. Have you listened to it?
No, when did this come out?
It says 5 days ago, but I just am learning about it now. I've been off social media since Thursday.
Well, this is my fault. I'm the aggregator here. Wait.
Let's listen now.
Geoff, this is copyright 2016.
No, it came out 5 days ago, it says.
Well, the description says copyright 2016. I'm wondering if this is like a B-side off of Dangerous Woman or something.
Could be.
That would be explain how I'm... Yeah, this is 2016.
Oh.
I don't know how you made it. I don't know why it just got uploaded, but this is an old song.
Oh, wait, I've heard this before.
Yeah.
Delete.
How did you even come across this?
Well, I was just on the YouTube. I had the Olivia Rodrigo music video on. I was playing it silently while we were talking.
But yes, this is not a new song. You had me scared for a second there.
Delete all of that from the pod. No one needs to know.
Okay.
Come on, let me just go. Oh, you already deleted it. Wow.
The erasure. On top of it.
The erasure
of your mistake.
You're
welcome.
Oh my God. All right. Well, let's talk about the Survivor 50 finale.